People who've been in a coma, what did it feel like? I was 15 when I got sick. Started with what I thought was just a really bad cold, but by day 3, my fever was so high I was basically talking nonsense. My mom freaked out and rushed me to the hospital. Turns out what I thought was the flu was actually pneumonia that had gotten so bad it turned into sepsis. The infection was literally poisoning my blood. The doctor said my body was shutting down to protect itself. I remember being wheeled into the ICU and hearing my mom crying in the hallway. That's the last thing I remember for 3 months. But here's the weird part. I wasn't just lying there in darkness like people think. In my mind, I was back in our old house from when I was little, the one we moved out of when I was 8 after my brother Amir died in that car crash. Everything looked exactly the same. Same ugly green carpet in the living room, same creaky stairs, even the same smell of my mom's cooking, but I couldn't leave. Every door was locked, every window wouldn't budge. I could see people outside though, neighbors walking their dogs, my parents driving by, even some of my friends from school. I'd bang on the windows, scream at them, but they never looked up. It was like I was invisible. The only person who could see me was Amir. He looked exactly like he did before the accident, wearing that stupid Lakers jersey he practically lived in. He'd show up every day and just hang out with me. We'd sit on the couch playing video games that weren't even plugged in, or he'd tell me dumb jokes like we used to. But Amir kept saying weird stuff too. He'd be like, "You gotta stay awake in here, Ravi. Don't let yourself drift too deep or you might not find your way back." I didn't really get what he meant at first. Sometimes these really loud, rumbling sounds would shake the whole house, like thunder, but way more intense. When that happened, Amir would get all serious and urgent. He'd grab my shoulders and be like, "They're calling you. Listen hard. That's your way out." It took me forever to realize those rumbles weren't thunder at all. They were voices from the real world. My mom singing to me by my hospital bed. The doctors talking about my treatment. Even my friends who came to visit, though, I found that out later. The strangest part was how time worked. Sometimes it felt like Amir and I hung out for days, but other times he'd disappear for what seemed like weeks. The house would get really quiet and cold, and I'd start panicking that I was stuck there forever. Near the end, Amir started acting different. He seemed kind of sad, but also excited, if that makes sense. He kept walking to the front door and just staring at it. One day he finally opened it, and there was this bright light pouring in. Not harsh light, but warm and welcoming. He turned to me and said, "Time to go now, little brother. I'll see you later, but not too soon, okay?" Then he stepped aside and motioned for me to walk through the door. I was scared at first, but then I heard my mom's voice super clearly through that light. She was crying and saying, "Please come back to me, baby. Please." So I stepped forward into the light. Next thing I knew, I was opening my eyes in a hospital room. My mom was slumped over in a chair next to my bed, holding my hand. When she saw me looking at her, she started crying so hard the nurses came running. I was in the hospital for another month after that, doing physical therapy, because my muscles had basically forgotten how to work. The doctors said it was a miracle I didn't have brain damage. They kept asking me if I remembered anything from the coma, but I was too embarrassed to tell them about the house and Amir. It wasn't until like 6 months later that I finally told my mom about it. About how Amir had been with me the whole time, keeping me company and making sure I didn't give up. She went completely white when I said his name. Then she started crying again, but differently this time. She told me that every single night I was in the coma, she would sit by my bed and whisper, "Amir, please watch over him. Please don't let him go." Turns out my mom had been asking my dead brother to protect me, and somehow he actually did.